have greater capability of predicting in the future, using big data, putting data sets together, medical data from early on. I think in the not too distant future, we'll have a lot of information on people. I think that a point will come where we'll be able to take an adult and say, well, this individual has not yet committed a serious violent offence, but putting all our data together, we think in the next 2 years, he's got a 50% chance of committing a serious violent act. Imagine if we could make that prediction. What do we do with that person? And a lot of people would say, well, until somebody has done anything wrong, you cannot do anything. It would be morally wrong. Yeah, civil liberty, But the counterpoint is that we have the knowledge. We have the knowledge of a 50% chance of them committing a violent act. And if we do nothing and they go and kill someone, we have blood on our hands. We've got the blood of that innocent victim that we could have saved if only we had acted. So when I think of this scenario in my mind, what if we can predict in the future? One of the questions that comes up is, how accurate is a prediction? Because we know no prediction will be perfectly accurate. What if it's 80%? Or what if it's 70%? Or 60%? I don't know. I don't know where we'll draw the line between acting and not acting. As soon as you talk about biological brain data, everyone gets worried about that. And I think we can talk about that. There's a lot of reasons why people get worried. But just before we go into that, we have to make decisions every day about what prisoners to release early because they're not at risk, and which prisoners to keep in more because they are dangerous. And right now in the United States, often there's no formal assessment. It's up to the judge. What is he using? What's the basis for his judgment? So I think that what would be better in society is to have much more formal risk assessments of offenders. And I think it does occur in some states at some level in the United States. But could it be formalized and structured a lot more? Some people don't like the idea of making these predictions, but let's think about it. If biological and neuroscience data could help us make better predictions, more accurate predictions than we are doing now, what's wrong in that? I suppose one thing we can consider is a form of detention which is not as punitive as prison. What shape that will take, I think, is open to question. Not yet. No, it's not yet. But I think you saw some recent data that we had on cognitive functioning in young offenders, and showing that cognitive functioning declines during the time you're in prison. So that's not good news, because poor cognitive functioning is already a risk factor for crime. If we can do that, then we can translate that into lives saved, money saved, and then the public could be persuaded. I think what we need to do is have an experimental study that has a different option to prison, and then show, compared to a control group, we can reduce recidivism. Because I think the skeptics will say, show us the evidence. Show us the evidence that this will save us money. Not just talk, but evidence. Well, that's something that scientists could help do in the future. We do feel differently about white-collar crime. We think it's not as serious as violent offending. We've done very little on that. We've only done 2 studies on white-collar crime. One is published, the other is under review right now. So in both of the studies really, it's brain imaging work. And our prior study had shown that white-collar offenders have actually increased volume of grey matter in the frontal cortex. They have better executive functions, which is a neuropsychological term reflecting better functioning of the frontal cortex. Now, what we make of that, I don't know. I mean, obviously white-collar crime is a more sophisticated form, and that if an individual has a better brain, let's say, then perhaps this is giving them an advantage over others to perpetrate white-collar crime. How this then gets translated into punishment for white-collar crime, I think I'm not sure. But certainly white-collar crime is different to blue-collar crime or street crime. There are different factors underlying it. The white-collar criminals don't have the risk factors that the street offenders, the violent offenders, have. I think the public will say they didn't have any of the risk factors for crime. They should even be punished more harshly than some of the street offenders. We go back to retribution because I think the perception with white-collar criminals is that they have full control. They have free will. He's got full free will. He should be punished more. I know, it gets very difficult and tortuous, really. And then I think it goes back also to the fact that, surprisingly, we have very little research on white-collar criminals. In criminology, the conception of the white-collar criminal is that it's not the individual, it's the institution. It's the institutional atmosphere that creates an atmosphere for white-collar crime. Because criminology at its heart is sociological. It doesn't look, as psychologists do, at individual differences.